Hey you guys, thanks for joining me for the first episode of League Awareness. I'm Mrbdotdot, and in this episode, I'll be introducing the mechanic of last hitting minions, some advanced tactics to get more last hits, as well as tips and tricks to help you farm. Last hitting is by far one of the most important concepts to learn. It occurs when you deal the killing blow to the enemy creeps, champions, or jungle minions. By getting the hang of last hitting, you're guaranteeing yourself gold and anyone else nearby experience. While last hitting, you'll notice some visual and auditory cues that help identify when you've successfully dealt the killing blow. You'll hear a sack of coins jingling, as well as gold numbers hovering over the minion. While practicing, make sure to become familiar with these two indicators. In this example, we have Sivir with two different item sets. The one on the left started with Doran's Blade, while the one on the right started with Boots of Speed. While watching these examples, keep in mind how much health the minions have, how much damage Sivir is doing, and how patient she should be before auto-attacking for the killing blow. She's waiting until the critical point where the health of the minion is just high enough where your minions can't finish it off, and just low enough when she can kill it with one strike. As you can see, I missed the last hit because I anticipated my minions to hit it one more time, but instead I attacked too early, missed the last hit, and gained no gold. When comparing the two Sivirs, notice how the timing for last hitting is slightly different. Sivir must wait until the minion health is lowered to last hit because the damage output of having boots isn't as high as the damage output of having Doran's Blade. Remember that the key to last hitting is being observant and patient. Every champion in League of Legends has a different attack animation, projectile speed, spells, and damage. Make sure you get familiar with your favorite champions and all of their last hitting mechanics. It's important to last hit throughout the whole game. A large amount of your income is affected by how well you can control your lane or jungle through last hitting. In League of Legends, a big part of the game is to farm minions for items to provide more damage, defense, or utility. Just remember, the better you last hit, the more gold you'll get, the stronger your character will be. During the early stages of the game, last hitting can be difficult for certain champions. Players will often resort to using spells, masteries, runes, or items in order to compensate for their lack of early game damage. Players who are below level 30 who don't have runes or masteries will have the biggest challenge last hitting. Ranged carry attack damage champions such as Ashe, Tristana, and Vayne often have the most difficulty last hitting during the laning phase due to their low attack damage. However, with the right selection of items, your chances of last hitting can greatly increase. For many ranged attack damage champions, a majority of players will buy Doran's Blades early to provide more sustainability and damage early game. From that point on, some save up for a BF sword because of its late game item options, and for those who can't quite make it to the 1650 gold mark can purchase a pickaxe. As for melee champions, grabbing a Doran's Blade early is also highly recommended, as well as a longsword since it can build into so many different items such as Hex Drinker, Phage, and Brutalizer. All these items can later build into legendary items once you can afford the gold. An item that has not been mentioned is Wriggle's Lantern. It provides a lot of utility and is often used on junglers. Although this item can be used on melee and ranged attack damage champions, it's utilized more with junglers in other specific situations, therefore we'll be covering it in another video. Alongside attack damage champions, there are mages and casters known as ability powered champions that use spells and skills that scale with ability power items. These AP carries use a dynamic range of skills to help last hit and to clear minion waves. There's a wide range of ability power champions, all of them drastically different from one another. You may find some that have really great wave clearing abilities but lack good range, some that have amazing last hitting abilities but are susceptible to ganks, and everything in between. It's especially important to be familiar with this pool of champions to better anticipate what sort of lane you'll be up against. In this tutorial, we'll be using Ryze, Morgana, and Annie to show you a few key differences between the ways that you last hit with these champions. Ryze is an exceptional mana-based duelist that has single targeting spells. His spells will auto-lock and go through minions until it hits his selected target. For low mana cost, he can cast spells that deal more damage than his auto-attack using his Q hotkey Overload, or W, which is Rune Prison. Although his last hitting is strong, Ryze is susceptible to getting outpushed in lanes by area effect spells. Notice how for a majority of the last hits, Ryze uses auto attacks instead of casting spells. By doing this, you'll be conserving mana for the moments where you need to make big plays, or to guarantee a last hit like catapult minions. Morgana is amazing when it comes to killing waves of minions. Her hotkey W, Tormented Soil, places an area in effect, also known as AoE, pool on the ground that deals damage over any enemy unit that walks over it. Using Tormented Soil will put a lot of pressure on the lane, and will usually send your minion wave up to the enemy tower. This is a great strategy to use if you want to recall, grab blue buff from the jungle, or to gank for other lanes. Annie is great at last hitting. Her hotkey Q, Disintegrate, is a single targeting spell that refunds you back mana with every successful last hit. Her hotkey W, Incinerate, creates an AoE cone that's in front of her character that deals tons of damage. Her moveset is exceptional for both last hitting and pushing, but the result of using her spells and missing last hits can heavily punish her mana pool. Most ability power champions will want to grab Doran's Rings early for the mana regeneration, ability power, and health. From there, decide if you need more sustain by grabbing a Catalyst or a Hectech Revolver, health and utility by going Relies, or for more ability power with a Mrbdot's Death Cap. When creating a mastery page for attack damage characters, consider grabbing Butcher, Brute Force, Alacrity, Executioner, and Deadliness. For ability power champions, consider grabbing Mental Force, Sorcery, Havoc, Blast, Archmage, and Executioner to help you clear out minion waves and last hit with skills. You can also put in points into Expanded Mind and Meditation in the utility tree if you're having mana issues. For runes, attack damage characters should look into grabbing Greater Quintessence of Strength and Greater Marks of Strength for additional physical damage. Ability power champions can use Greater Quintessence of Potency for additional ability power, flat or scaling ability power glyphs, and flat or scaling mana regeneration seals. As you continue to play more League of Legends, you'll pick up a lot of tips and tricks that will help you improve your game. Here are a few things that you should keep in mind. You'll often be against players who pressure your lane and will push the minion wave back into your tower. Learning to last hit on tower can help you keep up and farm without having your turret take all your precious gold. There are a few key things that you should keep in mind when last hitting under the tower. Which type of minion the turret is focusing on, how much damage the turret is doing to that minion, which minion you should prioritize, and how much damage you can do in order to secure the last hit. There are 3 different types of minions that the game will spawn every 30 seconds. You have melee and caster minions that spawn with every wave, and a siege minion that spawns every 3rd wave. During the early phases of the game, the melee minions require 2 tower shots and a last hit. Caster minions take a tower shot and 2 auto attacks. You want to hit it first, then let the tower attack, and then deal the killing blow. And then you also have the siege minion that can take several more hits. It's important to remember these values when last hitting underneath the tower. When taking a closer look, you can see a line that represents which unit the tower is going to be aiming for next. Use this guide to help you focus on which minion to last hit. Sometimes the minion will be damaged before getting attacked by the tower. Be conscious and engage when you should attempt to last hit. Just be sure to look at the minion's health before applying all of these rules. When you're in a player versus player game, known as PvP, you'll be facing against opponents who are trying to get last hits as well. You'll often be comparing each other's creep score, also known as CS, to make out who has the bigger advantage. Just remember, so as long as you're within a range of 20 CS, you're still relatively even. Oftentimes, when you're trying to go for last hits, you have to move out of a safe position where the enemy has an opportunity to punish you with damage. If you can grab the last hit and trade for minimal damage, that's great, but make sure you gauge how much burst damage your opponent can deal to you and that you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're pressured and unable to last hit anymore. It's important that when you're behind in CS that you stay focused and continue your best to last hit. Oftentimes people will check their scores and lose sight of the game at hand, which makes them fall behind even further. During the early phases of the game, it's much easier to farm in lane. As the game progresses further into the ganking and objective phases, players neglect to continue farming. If your character doesn't have all 6 item slots filled with advanced and legendary tier items, and with every elixir consumed, then you can always continue to farm more. Thanks for watching this tutorial on last hitting. If you'd like to support league awareness, don't forget to subscribe, like, and spread the word.